Hello, my name is Jason, JROCK Houston. You guys are listening to an interview being done tonight for Under Influence. My great pleasure to be speaking with Roy Merlino, who's the lead singer of a great Huey Lewis Tribute Band based out of Sacramento, California. The name of your band, of course, is Super Huey. How are you doing tonight, Roy?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Now, I guess the best place to start the interview off is if you could share with us how you first got into the music of Huey Lewis and became a fan.
Oh my gosh! Well, so I graduated high school in '83, and back in the '80s, late '79 through the '80s and stuff like that. Huey was huge, all over the radio and everything, and we all used to listen to him, all the time. We listened to Huey, we listened to the hair bands and all that. But the only rock shows my parents would let us go to were Huey's, just because he had a clean image and all that kind of good stuff. So. That was our first rock show we got to go to. Was they played the Cal Expo Amphitheater in Sacramento, California in 1983.
Wow.
And after that, I was hooked. We loved it.
So you actually were aware of Huey before the Sports album came out in '85, which is kind of the breakthrough album where everybody kind of really started to know who he was.
Yeah. We listened to the self-titled album, Huey Lewis in the News, and there was some cool stuff on there. And it's really interesting if you listen to some of the tracks on there. They played a lot of the stuff different than they played it later on too, like Trouble in Paradise. They played the stuff so fast and punky back then, and then it really changed to more of a blues rock groove for the Sports album later in the later efforts.
And now, when you listen to Sports, like we were saying, which is kind of his breakthrough album where everybody kind of really started to know who he was, like a lot of people, do you think that he went a little too commercial, or do you just think that's what he was doing at the time?
I think that's what they were doing. I mean, they didn't sound like anybody else.
Yeah.
You couldn't really say, they're really kind of going for the same thing that the Cars were going for at the time and all that kind of stuff. They really sounded different. So I don't know. I think it was them doing what they wanted to do, and I think they had some issues with when they were doing the record and stuff like that, where Huey had to take the master tape home and put them under his bed. They were afraid that the studios wouldn't go out of business and they were going to lose control of the product. So I think that they were pretty much doing it themselves.
And now, Roy, I imagine, like a lot of people, when you first started out a musician, you were doing your own original music. So, first of all, how old were you when you first started playing music?
I started playing the trumpet when I was 5. My dad got me going on it, and he was a phenomenal trumpet player. Played with big bands and all that kind of stuff. So I really liked, jazz and big band and all that, and I played that, my whole life. In fact, I still play the trumpet. And that was, I kind of cut my teeth on that stuff. And then when I was 16 or 17, I discovered that if you could write music and play piano, you could get girls. How that started for me.
And so the great thing about, getting into music like Huey Lewis is, he's, a lot of his songs, he's got horns and different types of instrumentation, but it's got more of a rock feel, and like you said, even a little bit of a blues element. So I think that's the cool thing. Now, I was curious, how long did you do your own original music thing before you decided that, hey, I think I'm going to give this a try at paying tribute to Huey Lewis?
Well, I got serious about. I had a band up in Tahoe when I lived up there. We just all we did was play music, and we played all the casinos and played all the clubs on North Shore and South Shore and West Shore and stuff like that. This is not probably the early '90s. The grunge was big back then.
Yeah.
We had a band called the Mighty Hornets, and it started out as a cover band, but then we started writing a bunch of stuff, and I really loved that. That was probably 23 maybe. And we had an opportunity with that band where we got mentioned. They interviewed one of the speed skiers up there, and he said, "What's fun to do on North Shore, Tahoe?" And they said, "Anywhere Mighty Hornets play." So that got us some attention, and this guy came down from Seattle and wanted to give us a bus trip up there and get some a couple guys in the band wouldn't do it, and so we kind of just threw our hands up and gave it up. And we were, I was really focused on, other stuff at the time too, and That wasn't me.
You're just kind of doing it for fun. And so, what was the point when you, well, I guess you said when you moved back to Sacramento, but how did the idea to pay tribute, to get a Huey Lewis tribute project going? Was it a matter of people telling you sounded like him, you looked like him? Because, I look at the pictures, you look very much like him, but how much of that is a costume versus your real look,
Well, Huey is prettier than me.
Yeah.
So, gotta say that. But I could tell you that we had this band that was real popular around Sacramento for about 10 years called Mother Mayhem, and that was a cover band. And every time we get off stage, almost every time, somebody would come up to me and go, dude, when you sing that song by Third Eye Blind or whatever, you sound like Huey Lewis. and I've always loved Huey's music. And so, yeah, so that's kind of like, we're like, what we really got to do is do a Huey project. And really, and so instead of, we didn't want to be creepy and stalkerish or weird or anything like that. So we actually had our management company, before we even got serious about the project, we had our management company reach out to Huey's people, because there's some mutual connections there, and make sure it was cool with them. And they were awesome. They just been super supportive, really nice people.
And again, Roy, you're talking to a guy here who's not even a musician, so I can't play a musical note, but I got to ask you, like, down here in LA where I'm from, there's only like one other Huey Lewis tribute that I'm even aware of called The Heart of Rock and Roll. And my question to you is, are you surprised that there aren't more Huey Lewis tribute bands out there, or do you think it's more because it's difficult music to play?
I don't know. I think any music, whether it's metal or country or straight rock or blues or Motown or anything like that, funk, all that stuff. I think you could say, okay, well, some is more syncopated and technical than another, but I tell you what, to get it right, to play it exact, I think what we really learned doing Huey's music is it's more about what you don't play than about what you play to get it done right. And so I think it might be that it's pretty technical. I'm just, I'm on stage with these guys that are just amazing musicians, and I'm just lucky to be on stage with them. So in that regard, it's been kind of easy for us. Not that the music is easy, but it's been easier to get it the way we wanted it, because we have such great players. But I think, I don't know, man. I think it's like it's hard to get any sound right, no matter what kind of sound it is.
Yeah, and when I say difficult music to play, what I mean is this is not your typical just two guitar, bass, and a drum. I mean, like you said, it's layered music. It's got horns. It's got some of it's got saxophones, and your typical instrumentation. So it's a little more layered than a lot of other rock music out there. So, how long has this band been together? And were these guys that you were already playing with, or did you get a new group of guys for Super Huey?
It started out with the same guitar player and bass player from Mother Mayhem and me, and then we added, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. We added 4 more guys, or 3 more guys and a female to help us with the vocals. Because I don't know if you know this, but one of the hardest things about Huey's music is their amazing harmonies and the way they can play. And we actually needed a little help with that, so we brought Tina in, and she just did dynamite on stage for us. But we started out with that lineup, and we really haven't had too many lineup changes. The original bass player decided to retire, and so the lineup we have now we're real excited about. There's been me, the keyboardist, and that's probably the only two, and Tina, the only 3 in the original lineup. And everybody else has changed at least once, but it hasn't changed in a long time now. It's been that lineup for a while. And
so, how many years have you guys been doing this Super Huey project?
A little over 3 years.
Oh, okay, great.
It started out quiet and on the down low and everything, and we just not on the down low with Huey people, but we weren't really trying to push it until we had it dialed in the way we wanted it to. And it's really blown up since we did that World Tribute Band show. It has blown up. Yeah,
I was going to ask you. About that because, like a lot of people, that's how I even became aware of you. And so, that's great that 3 years into the band, you guys have already appeared on that show. So, could you share with us how you got the opportunity to appear on there?
Well, our management, submitted us. They get 1,000 submissions, right, every season. Our management submitted us, and what they want, Katie Dillon is a phenomenal producer. She knows what she wants, and she knows what she doesn't want. And so when they look at your submissions, you have about probably 2 or 3 seconds to impress before they trash.
Yeah.
And I think we're lucky enough that our producer Guy Course, he's actually also our drummer, and he's produced some Grammy award-winning artists and stuff, and he really helped us put our best foot forward with the Access TV World's Greatest Street Band people. So I think that had a big thing to do with it. And I also think that one of the reasons they picked it this year is because it's the 30th anniversary of Back to the Future, the movie franchise, the original Back to the Future movie. And he wrote the soundtrack for that. Or he wrote a couple songs.
Yeah, and again back to the TV show. Besides Katie Darrell, a lot of people might be surprised to learn that Ryan Seacrest is also one of the producers behind that show.
Yeah, and I didn't even know that until way down the road. We never met him or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I know that I heard that somewhere through the grapevine. Either when we were down there or after we had already played it.
And I think the great thing about that show, like as you're aware, Roy, is that's great national exposure for trippy bands like you guys. And the show they do more than just pick local LA trippy bands. They, like you said, they get submissions from all across the United States, and I think you guys were really at the right season for the simple fact that typically on that show people are used to getting like a lot of metal and rock acts, and like last season they had like a guy that did Stevie Wonder, a guy that did Frank Sinatra, they had you guys, they even had a guy come on and do Elvis. So I felt like last season was really one of the better seasons for the simple fact you had a little bit of something for everybody.
I think so. I think there's more variety this season. I think that's probably what they were going for. We were just super fortunate and blessed to be able to do that. It was awesome.
And I'm almost willing to bet, besides, how talented your band is, I bet a big reason you got on that show was the simple fact that there are not a lot of Huey Lewis tribute bands out there, like we were saying. And so that's got to be something that's working for you.
Oh, absolutely. There's not a lot. And I think there's definitely a market for it. Really what people should do is if they can get you a real Huey show, go. It's awesome. Those guys still tour. They still do, 60, 70 dates a year all over the United States and abroad. And they sell out everywhere they go. We go to shows every year.
Yeah.
And they're just amazing. They're so tight. They're such a great band. But if you can't make it to a show or there's no show around you, then, that's kind of where we come in. It's great.
And now let me ask you, as far as the Access TV show, because I've been down there to the Roxy where they film, and I guess it's the Whiskey now where they film some of those shows, and typically the band will be on stage for about an hour, but even as an audience member, it seemed like the show was over as fast as it quit. I imagine as a performer you're up there and you're aware of the red light and that you're going over national TV. What was that experience like for you? Did it seem like it was over as soon as it started?
Yeah, it did. It was like I felt like I blinked and missed it. It's a good thing that we recorded it at home, because when I got home, it was just a blur.
Uh-huh.
It was so exciting for us, because none of us are playing the original music anymore, and that kind of stuff. Well, I shouldn't say that. Jason, our guitar player and sax player, who plays the Johnny Cola part of our band, is a phenomenal jazz musician too, and he's done a lot of original stuff. But for the most part, now all of us are doing, this is a labor of love for us, and it's just fun for us to do. And so to have this kind of an opportunity, and really, to play at the Whiskey, man.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's just awesome.
Again, talking about that, I'd imagine, while you're up there on that stage, you have all kinds of thoughts going through your mind. But that's the place where like the Doors and Van Halen and a lot of the legendary LA bands got their start. Even Elton John. That must be an amazing feeling, going through your mind at the time.
It was amazing. Think of the DNA in the green room, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, everybody knows, you guys are a tribute band and you're not the real Huey Lewis, but I imagine people in the audience that night, or even while you're on the stage and, even after the fact, you come off stage and you go and, shake hands with the fans and people in the audience, you must feel like, you have your little rock star mode going, so to speak, at the time, and it must be a great feeling, to realize that many people came out that night to see you guys.
Yeah, it feels really good, and I can tell you, we do a lot of shows where, these big festivals and fairs and theater shows and private corporate stuff and all that, and the thing that we all get off on the most is you can see in the faces of the people in the audience the music it's taking them back. I mean, they're sitting there, they don't even know, people don't even know how many hits Huey and the News actually had.
Yeah.
I mean, and they were just a hit monster machine. And we get up there and we play, and you look at these people that are, in their mid-30s, 60 and over and stuff, and they know the words to these songs, and they don't even know why they know them.
Yeah, and you just touched,
cool.
And you just touched on a great point, Roy, because that has been my experience. A lot of these tribute shows I've been to. See, that's what you guys are providing for the audience is, when you're up there on stage and you're performing these Huey Lewis songs, you might take somebody back to the first time they heard a Huey Lewis song on the radio, or when they seen I Need a New Drug video for the first time, or something like that, or very first time they seen Huey in concert. I can attest to that because. First time I ever seen this Guns N' Roses tribute band out here in LA, they're called Hollywood Roses. And again, it's a show at the Legendary Whiskey, and I had to pinch myself. These guys were that good. Not only did they sound like Guns N' Roses, they looked the part. And I thought for a minute, this is as close as I'm ever going to get to seeing Axl Rose and Slash perform on stage. And it was such a great feeling because it took me back to the very first time I heard, Welcome to the Jungle. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, isn't that weird? It's like a deja vu moment almost. You can remember smells, you can remember feelings, you can remember voices of friends, all that kind of. You can remember what it was like, what the light was like in the room that you were in when you first heard. Music's weird like that, how it takes you back, and that's one of the things that we watch that happen from the stage, and I just it's just awesome to see. I think we provide nostalgia is what we do as a tribute band.
And again, like I was interviewing this guy the other day from a Nirvana tribute, and he was telling me, he says the thing I love about what we do is, he says, in our case, because Kurt Cobain's no longer around and he's passed on, Nirvana is never going to get to perform again. He said, so for many people out there who never got to see the real Nirvana, and obviously you're never going to get to, he said, so we're kind of their chance to kind of see what that was like. We're not claiming to be Nirvana, but they can kind of get an idea of what a Nirvana show was like.
Yeah, absolutely, and that band was monumental. I mean, that was the beginning. That was the thing that really lit off the grunge era. And started a whole new. Basically a whole new genre of rock.
And so,
And I never got to a Nirvana show.
Yeah.
I think it'd be awesome to see it. In fact, probably a chance to, I will.
Yeah. And so let me ask you, Roy, now again, like a lot of musicians, you were saying, you got started doing your own original music, although you weren't really that serious about it. So once you put Super Huey together, I was curious, like a lot of people, were you surprised to see the kind of the immediate success or the success you could have with a band like this if you got all the right people lined up?
Yeah, I think I was not surprised at the response to it, not because I was cocky, but because Huey and the News music is so amazing and infectious.
Yeah.
And I knew that if we just did it right, if we just could pay a real honorable tribute to that music by being authentic to the music and doing it correctly, that's really all we had to do because the music is so great.
Yeah,
people love it. And so I wasn't super surprised once we got it right.
Yeah.
When it really took off.
Yeah, and I guess the point I'm trying to make, I talk to a lot of these guys and they tell me, what we found out is, like a lot of people, we tried doing our own original music for several years, but it might take you 5 or 6 years before you even have your first hit single, if even that. Whereas if you put together a pretty good tribute band, first of all, there's a built-in audience, and so people kind of come to a show, they have an idea what they're going to see, and so it's a little easier to get people to come to a show as if you're a band they've never heard of, they're not aware of any of your material, and that's kind of what I've heard. And so it just amazes me though that the tribute scene is kind of turned into what it has.
Yeah, the tribute scene has really kind of blown up. I mean, I forget the name of that movie with Mark Wahlberg and stuff.
Yeah.
I forget, it's like Rockstar or something like that.
Yeah.
He was in a tribute. It was pretty interesting. I mean, I remember that it seemed like when that movie came out and all that, and then Access TV was doing their first season. I think that's when Access TV and World Trade Studios has a lot to do with the growth of the tribute scene as well.
Yeah, and the movie Rockstar was loosely based on the guy that joined Judas Priest from a Judas Priest tribute band, Tim Owens, who replaced Rob Halford. And so again, even if you look at a band like Journey, they got this great guy from the Philippines. He sounds like identical.
Like doing like karaoke stuff on YouTube or something, right?
Yeah. And he sounds like identical to Steve Perry. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so let me ask you, because you're the one guy in this band where you're the front man, the lead singer, you're the guy paying tribute to Huey Lewis. So you're the kind of a main focus, focal point. Is that any added pressure for you compared to the rest of the band?
I think I have the easiest, in my mind, anyway. Look, I never had to try to sound like Huey.
Yeah.
And so I don't really have any special talent, I don't think. I just lucked into the fact that my voice sounds like his naturally. And I had to pick up the harmonica and learn it.
Yeah.
And so that was a little bit of pressure, but I can tell you that, what all the other guys do in the band is so much harder than what I do. I think I don't really ever feel any pressure before a show. It just flows like butter, and I love to do it. And I know that these guys have a lot more work to do when we bring in play new songs, or not new songs, but add more Huey stuff, and they have to work harder now. All I have to do is learn the words, but I was thinking, and half the stuff was like almost all the stuff I knew anyway, because I used to sing along to it my whole life.
And so like you were saying, when you guys first put the band together, you had your manager kind of contact Huey's people. So I was curious. Obviously, they are aware of you. You got any kind of like response back from them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, we've been backstage at a few of their shows, and pictures with the guys, and then Johnny Cola came and played with us a couple of times. Bill Gibson played with us. We played with Mario Cipollina, the original bass player. And when they're playing in town and stuff, if we're not doing a show, we can usually get backstage and go back and say hey and stuff. So it's pretty neat, and it was, I got to tell you, when to be able to play on stage with Johnny Cola and Bill Gibson and stuff like that has been huge. I mean, that was like, I could have just quit then and I would have been fine.
Wow.
It was awesome to be on stage or something like that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow. And I got to ask you, getting back to the Access TV show, a lot of these bands that appeared on the TV show, they have them go into the studio and record like songs. Like in your case, I guess you would record like some Huey Lewis songs, and they release CDs of his stuff, and they release it digitally, and they try to, I guess, ideas try to get some of it placed in movies and TV shows, because it's a lot cheaper than saying paying the real Huey Lewis to have one of his songs featured in a movie. So have you guys been approached at all about doing that?
No, and I think we're not going to do that, because I just kind of feel like, no disrespect to the people who do it, but we know the guys in Huey in the News. We've talked to them, we've all talked to them personally. They've been nothing but gracious and kind and totally classy and respectful to us. And I kind of feel like, in a way, we would be disrespecting that relationship to sell their music. I mean, even if we paid licensing. If we pay licensing or whatever and do something like that, and you're paying a fraction of what they could make. If some new series on HBO wanted to buy Power of Love.
Yeah.
So we're just not going to do that. And I think it's just not where we want to go with it.
Yeah, and I was surprised, going back to like 1984, we're talking about I think it's I Need a New Drug. I was amazed I didn't realize at the time, but the Ghostbusters theme, Huey sued Ray Parker Jr. It's amazing when you hear, man. It's like it's so obvious now that that was a ripoff.
Yeah, it was a blatant ripoff. I mean, it was ridiculous. I can't believe that they didn't at least credit Huey and the News for that bass line in that song. What happened was they asked Huey Lewis and the News to do the soundtrack. Huey Lewis and the News declined, but they had, I guess something happened where that bass line was already in some of the footage that Ray Parker Jr. was using when they were cutting it together and the music. Anyway, somehow that bass line got in his head and thought it was good. I have no idea. So I wasn't part of it, but I know Huey sued them and it settled.
Yeah.
And then I think that there was a gag order as part of the settlement.
Yeah.
Huey said something about it, and then Ray Parker sued Huey, and that settled. So I don't know.
I don't know the whole story.
On stage, what we do, we actually do a breakdown. If we know that the guys from Huey and the News are going to do that, we do a breakdown where, like, in the middle of it, we go into a few lines that should be proud of.
Yeah, and Roy, one thing I love about these tribute bands like that you do is like, to me, it's almost like rock and roll theater. It's more than like 4 or 5 guys just getting up in their jeans and t-shirts and playing Huey Lewis music. I mean, how boring would that be? That's why I love the fact that you get dressed up. You do everything in your power to look like Huey Lewis as you can. When you're up there on that stage. That's what it's about. That's what you want to do for people coming to your shows. And I would much rather see that than again seeing 5 guys in their jeans and t-shirts and just get up there and say, oh, we're just going to play Huey Lewis music. This is not Huey Lewis music. You guys are.
You're absolutely right. In fact, one of the things that we learned early on is because we're not Huey Lewis and the News, no one wants to hear me talk on stage.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, no one wants to watch, no matter how good we sound, nobody wants to watch us stand around jeans and t-shirts playing their music.
Yeah.
We have to put together a show. The show has to roll. There can't be any dead air. And it has to be, it has to be almost put together kind of like short attention span theater, because otherwise you lose the crowd. I mean, when I go to a Huey show, Huey can captivate the audience. He can stand up there and tell a 2 or 3 minute story, and people love it, right?
Yeah.
I can't do that. No one cares what I have to say. I didn't write the music. I'm not Huey. So we have to put together a real show.
Now again, everybody knows you're just a Huey Lewis tribute, but let me ask you, when you've been out in costuming after one of the shows, have you ever been mistaken for the man, or people ever mistaken you for thinking you were a real Huey Lewis?
What's funny is I really don't look that much like him as the other guy, but what's really cute is the kids. When we do these outdoor festivals, like we're going to play for about 20,000 people on the 4th of July at a park in the fireworks fest. So there's a bunch of kids there, right? Yeah. And they come running up to you. They think you're famous, and they want your autograph and all that. And it's the cutest thing ever. So I did have one adult come up to me at one of the shows where they actually thought. He called me Huey and said, hey, I didn't know you were still playing. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not Huey, and Huey and the Lewis are still doing it. I didn't know what was going on. But the kids are the cutest. It's adorable. They want signed drum heads, signed t-shirts, signed drumsticks, signed guitar picks, all that kind of stuff.
And Sacramento, probably the biggest band to come out of there in years is probably the rock band Tesla. So I was going to ask you, is there much of a music scene or even a tribute scene up there in Sacramento where you guys are from?
Yeah, there's a great music scene up here. There's a few clubs that really do it right. There's Powerhouse Pub and Hollow, I think, are the 2 premier music venues in our area. And they do, a lot of famous acts come through, a lot of Grammy award-winning acts come through, and then they do tribute stuff on Friday nights, Saturday nights. It's pretty cool up here. Don't forget about Kate, too. Kate came out of Sacramento.
Oh, okay, yeah. And let me ask you, do you typically do you do clubs and House of Blue type places, or do you do theaters and outdoor sheds and stuff?
Most of the stuff we do, the smaller clubs, we don't typically do. We do Powerhouse Pub, we do Harlow's, House of Blues, but we're not really looking to play a whole ton of club shows. Most of our schedule is full with theater shows, private corporate stuff, and then the big festival.
Oh, cool. And have you guys ever given any thought, because a lot of these tribute bands, what's really big business right now is these residencies, especially like in Las Vegas and I in other towns I hear that we're hiring these tribute bands for like, a long run of dates,
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we'd be opposed to something like that. Uh-huh. I know that, for some of the guys, like one of the guys in the band's an attorney with a practice. Uh-huh. So the residency thing, we might have to sub him for that. Might be kind of a hard thing for him to do, running back and forth, especially if you're doing, 3 shows a night or whatever, 4 nights or 5 nights a week for 2 months or 3 months straight. That might be difficult.
And so how often do you guys play out? I mean, do you play a couple times a month, or?
Yeah, we get averages out over the year. We play about 4 or 5 shows a month.
Wow. That's not bad. And then I understand, besides doing the band, that you're also into real estate. So that must be kind of like a nice parallel. You get to have your day job and then kind of go do this on the weekend.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I mean, a lot of times we have shows and stuff that are local or semi-local. We'll invite our clients to come to shows and put on the list and everything, and they just get a big kick out of it, I think.
Oh, yeah, I bet. And so, getting back to the TV show for a minute, I was curious, like you were saying, like a lot of these bands have told me after you appear on that show, offers just start to come your way.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we talked to our managers about 2 or 3 times a week during this season. This is a real busy season. Yeah. And it's been blowing up ever since we played World's Greatest Tribute Band. We've had trouble booking dates because we're so booked already. They've had trouble getting stuff scheduled just because, we had shows on the schedule before. There's fly dates now that are coming our way. So we're real excited about all that.
Well,
we really owe Access TV and Mark Hughes and Katie Darrow and Ryan Seacrest got a huge debt, because I thought without that show, I don't think we would have noticed. At least I'm sure we would have noticed on that level.
Yeah. Well, again, that's a great place to be in. A lot of bands have the reverse problem, which is, they don't have a lot of gigs come in, or they have trouble getting gigs. So the fact that you're at that point where you have all these offers coming in, it's got to put you in a great position as far as bargaining and stuff. As far as what you're going to get paid or whatever for a gig. That's got to be a great position to be in.
It is. It feels really good, because I've done it both ways. I mean, when we were trying to get stuff going with the other bands I had and everything, I mean, you play it for nothing practically, and and just because you want to get out there and play. And so I've had it both ways, and I prefer that for sure. And I can tell you that, when you have to say no a few times, it's actually a good thing. It's a good thing for your brand. It's a good thing for future bookings. It's a good thing for what kind of price you can command. And, we don't want to be ridiculously pricey, but we do want, everybody to get paid. And so we're definitely happy.
Yeah, and let me ask, so at this point, have you guys pretty much played just locally? Like you said, you have some fly out dates and stuff, but is that kind of where you're at right now? You're starting to get offers from to do shows out of town?
Yeah, I know that our manager's working on something in Arizona and another one in Vancouver Island. And there's a couple more things that are in the works. Nothing signed on those yet.
Wow.
We've done some other way out of town dates last year. But there seems like there's more of that coming our way now.
Wow, that's great. And so, is that going to be like a hard thing? Like when you guys have to fly somewhere, like how hard is that to get all the equipment on a plane or something, or fly it out?
Well, most of the time, all the big equipment's the back line, right? And so that's part of the contract where that'll be provided by whoever the purchaser is.
Oh, okay.
At the venue. So we show up there and we give them specs for our back line and what we need. What kind of drums, what kind of amplifiers, and all that, mic package and everything. And then we bring out our own. We'll really plug and play with the digital X32 rack and everything. We can show up and really we don't even need sound check.
Why? It's
pretty cool.
And so let me ask you, Roy, as far as coming up with a set list, obviously you got to play like the hits and the radio hits and stuff, but do you throw in any deep cuts or that people might not be as aware of as some of the hits?
Yeah, you bet. We do. In fact, we do shows up to 3 hours long, so we're playing a lot of the stuff. We're doing, you know, all the stuff you know, right? Like Power Love, Back in Time, Harder Rock and Roll, Hit Be Square, all that kind of stuff. Stuff with you, those are the huge hits, right?
Yeah.
And then we also play, you know, So Little Kindness, which is just amazing Motown R&B sounding number that Chris Hayes and the guy wrote with Huey Lewis when he was in the band. He was the original lead guitarist, and that thing just cooks an amazing R&B, Motown-y horn sounding thing. And people love that stuff too.
Well, and so do you typically like headline most of his shows, or do you when you do a show, do you typically play with other tribute acts, play with original acts, or how do you guys usually set up your performances?
Most of the time we headline, depending on the club we're trying to play. Like there's some clubs where it's, you know, like where, you know, between you and me, don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
I would rather open it. Because I'm like, that's, you know, what's this after like 10 o'clock, man? That's my bedtime.
Yeah.
So I like that. But now most of the time we headline and we'll have like other tribute bands or another act or whatever, you know, for it. And that kind of thing. And it works out pretty good.
Playing with other tribute bands, I was curious, do you have trouble finding other tribute acts that you guys fit with?
Yeah, you know, we actually do, because Huey's music is so unique and different.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if you could put, you know, Huey Lewis in the news with like the Bon Jovi tribute, would you? I don't know, because it's so different, even though it's kind of the same era and stuff. So what we try to do is we try to find a match. Like we just did a number. There's a great band up there called Reckless in Vegas, and you mentioned the residency stuff. They all moved to Vegas, and they're doing residency stuff in Vegas right now.
Yeah.
And they do like old Brat Pack stuff, like Sinatra and everything, but they mix it over Green Day guitars, and it's really kind of edgy and really cool stuff. And so we played with them a couple of times, and they're just awesome. I think we're going to be doing a show with them. They're coming back out to Vegas just to do a show at Sweetwater in Mill Valley. I think we're going to do a show with them coming up.
Wow, how cool is that?
Yeah, and so when we find a band that we really fit with, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, I could see like even maybe like you said, Bon Jovi or a couple other bands, but you know, like there's half a dozen like AC/DC and Led Zeppelin tributes, and again, if you're going to be doing that, you got to have something special to offer, you know, something different, and I think the fact, again, like what you said, there's not a lot of Huey Lewis tributes out there, so you guys really found your niche, so to speak. You know, you got something special to offer here. You just got to. It's a matter of you know, getting the right bands on the bill with you. You know.
I think so. And you know, one of the things we've done too, in addition, is you know, you didn't get to see this on Access TV because we couldn't do it. It wouldn't fit with their production requirements. But at all of our shows, we run this huge video screen in the back, and we have, you know, video that's all timed to the music and everything, and got some clips from some of the old Huey Lewis in the News videos. And that was, you know, Huey Lewis in the News hit right when MTV hit, and that was one of the big components to their success.
Yeah.
And so some of those old videos are some of the things that really take people back as well. So we use some of those clips and some other overlays, some Back to the Future type stuff, and it's really kind of neatly put together, really neat production. Yeah, so that's part of the thing that we added as well.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, because you know, who knows if Huey Lewis would have came around a few years later, they might not have been a big. It's just, you know, MTV and Huey Lewis, they had a great relationship. They were there for each other at the right time.
Yeah, timing is so huge in any business.
Yeah.
I just think, and they nailed it, man. I don't think they tried. I don't think they were aware of it at the time. I don't know, but I mean, I think they're aware of it after the fact. But yeah, they nailed it. They hit the word just right.
And the great thing about where Huey Lewis is, you know, these days, like I was watching the behind the music they did on him, and you know, like you're saying, if he was to put out release any new music, like a lot of bands, it probably wouldn't sell as well today. But the amazing thing is, those songs that he released back in the day are still so popular. They stood the test of time. That he can still go out and, you know, just do even 50 shows a year, and he will make bank. And you know, it's a great place. You know, it's a great place to be in your life.
I think so, and I think they really honestly do it for fun. I mean, I read somewhere where Huey's worth over $20 million, so I don't think he's touring for the money.
No.
He's touring because it's what he loves to do.
And that's
I hope they just keep going strong, man. I love going to see him.
And that's what makes what you guys are doing equally as great, because I mean, you yourself, Roy, started out as a Huey Lewis fan, so in essence, you basically just jumped up on the stage, you took the mic, from Huey, so to speak, and you're keeping the legacy alive.
Well, I agree with part of that, except that I don't think I took the mic from Huey.
Well,
you got to go hear him sing. I wish I could sing like that.
Well, you know what I mean. I guess the point I'm trying to make is, you were the guy that first. You were one of these guys that listened to Huey Lewis. When he really influenced you, so to speak. You were one of the guys in the audience, and then he inspired you so much that you got up there on the stage and you started playing these tunes.
Yeah, I totally agree with. He was a huge inspiration to me. That whole band was just. I think a lot of it was because I came out of jazz and I was really into jazz and then fusion and funk and all that stuff. And what really appealed to me about Huey in the news is that they're huge hits and all the horns in them and everything, and just how tight it was and how syncopated it was. It's just freaking awesome. So yeah, I definitely was inspired by that for sure.
And I got to tell you, Roy, just talking to you tonight, you've kind of proven what I've known for a while now. And I got to tell you, part of the reason I started interviewing guys like you that playing tribute bands, like I was saying in the beginning of the interview, I've been to many of these tribute shows, and I enjoy them immensely. I mean, it's great rock and roll theater to me. It's taken me back to some, when I seen and heard many of these great bands for the first time. And the thing about it is, I seen all the hard work and dedication goes on to putting on a show like what you put on. But then on the flip side, there's this huge percentage of the general public that the misconception that, guys are playing tribute bands, they're failed musicians, they could never make it doing their own original thing. And again, my experience has been the opposite, because even put on a show like, even though you're up there playing Huey Lewis music, again, I can't play musical notes. So to me, even getting up on stage and and looking like Huey Lewis and playing the tunes the way he did, that takes a certain level of talent just to be able to do that.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, I don't care too much about what other people think.
Yeah.
That's just a function of, being comfortable in my own skin or whatever.
Yeah.
But I know, like I said, I've always loved that stuff, and I love playing it, and I love the rock and roll theater aspect of it. In fact, I think I love the way you put that term.
Yeah.
And so for me, I don't. I do it because I really love it, and I do it because I love the reaction of the audience. I don't think I'm Huey Lewis, and I don't think, I'm not one of these guys who was like, oh man, I could have made it in rock, I could have made it in music, and I just, take breaks. For me, I don't try to make it music. I don't know what else I'm going to do. I just love music, and I can sing.
But see, that's a great thing about what you're doing. Forget the audience for a minute. I mean, how great is that you can? I mean, you still do your real estate, during the day, but how great is that on the weekends that you can go do these shows?
Yes, I love it.
Kind of get.
And I tell my clients, I was like, hey, sometimes pay thousands of dollars a month to play golf, to blow off steam so they can stay sane.
Yeah.
And my only hobby is I play music when I'm not doing real estate, and it keeps me sane, and I get paid to do it.
That's the point. That's the point I'm trying to make. Success means different things to different people, but there's a huge percentage of people, out there in the world that they go to a job that they can't stand going to, and it's the only job they can get or whatever, and that's got to be a great feeling that you're doing what you love. Again, you're a guy that was influenced. You got up on stage, you're playing the songs that inspired you, and that's got to be, one of the greatest feelings in life, to be able to do something that you love doing.
Absolutely. I love the high pressure aspect of real estate. I actually really love it. I love it, but because of that, I need to blow off steam. And music has always been in my life, and I love it so much. So yeah, I really feel lucky. I definitely feel super fortunate and blessed and lucky to be able to do two things that I love that complement each other and that allow me to stay sane.
The last thing I'm going to say on the subject is, it's not so much about the naysayers, because anybody that's against this, first thing I'd ask them, okay, well, have you actually gone to one of these tribute shows? Have you experienced? Okay, well, if not, you go to one of these shows and then you let me know what you really think, or before you trash somebody for what they're doing, what are you doing in life? It's more about the people that enjoy it. That's the ones you're doing it for.
Absolutely, that's what I meant when I said I don't care about people who, you know, have negative things to say. I just honestly don't. And it isn't because I just don't have any feeling about those people one way or the other. I don't waste energy on it. And so for me, it's kind of like, you know, I mean, I hear comments and stuff like that from time to time. I'm like, okay, that's cool for you. That's what you think. It doesn't affect me one bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's funny. What's funny about that is there's far fewer people like that.
Yeah.
They just think they have, some of them have loud voices. I tell you something else. You can tell that you're doing something right if you start to get a few haters.
Yeah. And then, you know, as much as like Access TV shows helped you guys, I got to ask, how big of a help has the internet, like Facebook, been to you guys? Because just going on your Facebook page, I can kind of get the feeling that has helped you guys build up a nice little fan base for yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great way to get the word out. Our management actually handles a lot of our Facebook and our Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff. And that's been really instrumental because you can't, you know, in the old days, hey, join our mailing list, right? Well, no, you know, people, no one wants to get spams and everything.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about social media is it's kind of like permission-based, you know?
Yeah.
So the people who actually get your stuff are people who want it. And so it allows you to build up a following. And then when you do do some paid advertising, we run some pay-per-click and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you can target it so specifically that, I mean, you can, you know, on Facebook, you know, we'll do a show on Facebook. I can go and say, okay, our show's going to be in San Rafael. All right, so I can go and target everybody between the ages of 30 and 65 within 5 miles of San Rafael who have an interest in Huey Lewis in the news. And it's pretty neat, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been huge. But.
And, you know, I could talk to you all night, Roy, but I know you're a busy guy. So before I let you go, I'm just going to thank you for so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this. And before we end the conversation, I just want to ask, is there anything else you'd like to say to all the people that have been listening to this tonight?
Thank you. If there's anybody listening to us who's ever seen us before, thank you so much for coming to the show, and thank you for listening to this show and taking an interest in the scene and what's going on. And I love the fact that people want to come out and hear the music and watch our show. Well,
it's been great talking to you, my friend, and just do me a favor when you get a chance through my Facebook page, if you could drop me your email. And what I'll do is when I get a chance, I'll send you an MP3 file of the interview we just did, and you're welcome to do whatever you want with it. The interview itself should be going on probably about a week or so. The minute it gets posted, I'll let you know. But it's been great talking to you. I just want to wish you all the luck with the band and say to take care, and we'll be in touch.
All right, thank you so much. I'll do that for sure.
Okay, bye-bye.
Gotcha.